Okay, so here's the basic story of Risk of Rain 2, alright? So we start, it's basically about two brothers. In the first game, it's Providence, and he's kind of this, like, benevolent dictator kind of thing, where, like, he goes around and he saves other creatures, but, like, he's kind of fucked up about it. He's messed up. He shouldn't be doing it. Because he's not saving them because he likes them as a thing. It's like he's saving them because he's, like, he likes life in general and a whole bunch of different reasons. I'm not too well versed on Providence lore, but essentially he goes around saving creatures. Why does he do this? Well, let's go all the way back to the earliest lore we've got, and basically, it's him and Mythic stranded on Petrichor 5. Of course, they didn't call it that. They're technically native to this planet, so it's just Earth to them or whatever. And they're going around, and they basically are just having a grand time. They're living it up. And his brother, he likes these little worms that are in the dirt. He thinks they're cool. And so then they discover gravity wells, which are essentially black holes. Things just get sucked into them. And so they'll throw things. They'll throw dirt, they throw rocks, they throw a few other things. And when Providence isn't around, Mithrix throws in worms. And he never tells them about this. He just wanted to see what happened. He's kind of like a scientist, but Providence loved worms, and one day he finds out about this. And so that's kind of the start of their rift. And then they're living their life. There's a mysterious character, only known really as like she, who just kind of shows up. She doesn't really do anything, but she's around. Get deep enough into the lore and you'll find out who it is, probably. I don't know. So she shows up, and the two brothers kind of fight for her gift and her affection, whatever. And they discover this thing called, well, they discover kind of the four fundamentals of life in this universe, which is mass, design, soul, and blood. And so Providence actually shows this epic demonstration, or Providence gets shown this epic demonstration by Mithrix, who actually discovers them. And so Mithrix just basically takes mass. Mass is inert. It's represented by a circle, I believe. And so it's literally just boring. The whole point of it is that it doesn't do anything. It's required for everything to function. It has to be physically present, but it's not there. Design is kind of the idea of something. You put a little bit of design in there and it functions. It has a function, it has a purpose, it kind of like... It's design. It's kind of self-explanatory. This is Mithrix's favorite. Then there's blood, which is essentially life force. It's not very talked about. It's honestly kind of neglected in terms of everything else, but it's literally just blood. Mithrix's blood, other people's blood. And then there's soul, which is Providence's favorite. And this is basically identity. So, like, your soul, it's kind of the general concept of a soul. It's not very well defined, but it's like wispy, it's insubstantial, it's in the spiritual realm or something. And so that's represented by glass. So, and then blood is a triangle and design's a square. Just, those are like the shapes. You'll see them later in the game. Now, the interesting thing with all of this is that Providence makes artifacts with them. These serve as gameplay modifiers in the normal game, but they also become different creatures. For example, Stone Guardians are essentially retards, because... wait, I don't remember if that's the actual lore. I think they are basically just retards, because they make some Stone Titans, and those are basically just their bodyguards. And then Providence makes Aurelionite because he loves soul, and so he puts too much soul in him. He has too much identity, and so he becomes abnormally powerful and abnormally, I don't know what the right word is, willful. He doesn't just kind of sit down and take orders from Providence and Mithrix. He's developing an identity. So Providence and Mithrix trick it, and they seal it away in the Sundered Coast, or in the Sunken Coast, I believe it's called. And that's that for now, but he's locked away, and he's angry because he can't escape now, but he could. He was tricked into it, and so he's very upset about all this. He is not happy, which is why when you visit there in the original game, he tries to kill you, and then if you kill him and get his heart, You can summon him, and then he'll fight every boss for you, and then he'll also try to kill Mithrix, even when he takes all your other items, because he will never serve Mithrix, because he betrayed him. So, kind of just a funny thing. And also, it's heavily implied that a couple things. The amount of soul in him was so high that he could have actually threatened Providence and Mithrix, which is why Mithrix had him sealed away. Providence likely wouldn't have done that on his own. It's kind of just a Mithrix thing. He's not very trusting, and he just distrusts something that can possibly betray him, which you'll see evidence of later. And so, eventually, there's like this massive rift between them. And so, they, like, I don't know how best to describe it. They make what's called a teleporter. We'll start there. And that allows them to travel between planets through what they called, like, I don't remember what they call it. Essentially, they can travel between planets and they won't just die. So, very big invention. Big for the community, as you might imagine. And so, they build it, and then they're talking, and Providence says, Mithrix, why don't you go first? You're the big guy. You're the one who made all this. You should go first. And Mithrix is like, aw, really? You think that? And so he kind of almost reluctantly says, yeah, fine, I'll do it. I'll go first. And what do you know? Providence had enough. So, I have the lunar coins for it. I'm just going to do a little gay build here. Anyway. Oh, I don't have Gesture of the Drowned. Well, anyway. The interesting thing about this is Mithrix gets trapped. It's a one-way thing. So, unless Providence allowed him to teleport back, he can't teleport back. He gets trapped on the moon, essentially. Which is a disaster. It's terrible. And now, Providence takes the place of Mithrix as kind of like, they were kind of co-partners, but Mithrix was the brains guy. He told Providence what to do. Now Providence is the brains guy. He's telling other people what to do. And so he starts saving the creatures of this planet. He's not doing it for them. It's very explicit. He's doing it for kind of selfish reasons. He loves life. He loves soul. He's doing it because he loves soul. He's not really doing it because he values any of these species' life. It's a mismatch. Just realized what I did there. Well, top left of the screen was really interesting gameplay for you guys. Sorry about that. Anyway, what is particularly brutal about this, especially for some species, the Lemurians are very fond of Providence. They love this guy. They build statues of him. They sing him great songs, but he never takes notice because he doesn't care about them. So you kind of get this thing where neither brother is really a great guy. Mithrix is kind of a dick, just in general. He's not nice, he's not kind, he doesn't do anything. He's there because he wants to discover, he loves design, he wants to make things. And he also wants to, colonize other planets. He wants to be this, like, overlord dictator. Mithrix wants all this. Providence doesn't want that. He wants to live his life. He wants to, get as much soul as he can. He loves soul, and so he'll be happy spending 100 years just saving random little species from extinction. So, Providence starts doing that. He starts saving species, and then eventually, somewhat mysteriously, the UES Safe Travels, I believe. It might be the Contact Light. There's two names, and they're the only two important ones. But the UES Contact Light emerges from hyperspace. It had a scheduled stop at this planet for no reason. It's not on any star chart. They show up there. Providence teleports aboard. Well, they do some preliminary excavations, and Providence sees them and is like, dude, not cool. And they take a teleporter, so Providence uses it to teleport onto their ship and blow them up. And he crashes the ship. There's also a very minor lore character called the Heretic, who is one of the vultures that you can see on the alloy worship unit, kind of that area. Don't remember what it's called, but it's one of those. And those are apparently very intelligent, much more than you see in the game. They can use weapons. They're got tools. They're basically just humans. They're as smart as humans. And one of those is on the ship desperately trying to escape when Mithrix, or when Providence just kind of like goes in and tears the whole thing up. And he actually literally takes her, and because she tried to escape, splits her into 4 things and eviscerates her, which is why you find the lunar items in the game, and they each only form a little bit of the heretic. It's because she dead. So this is where Risk of Rain 1 takes place. It's all on this kind of super like weird point in the timeline. No one, I think there might be an explanation now, but it's essentially supposed to be just a big mystery why anything's happening there. But the end of the game is canon. You kill Providence. He's dead. There's only one option, because he's trying to kill you. All the residents are kind of unified. They're not going to be hostile to each other typically. The artifact allows you to make them hostile to each other, but it's not really like a deliberate thing. Anyway, so they're all teamed up against just you. Oh, equipment drawn funny. Yeah, we'll use it. So the nuts thing about all this is Providence is dead. He's progenitor hero of the planet. He has done more for this planet than anyone else. He's got life all over it. And he basically just picks a fight with the wrong dude. Which is kind of funny. Kind of hilarious. But now that he's dead, guess what's coming next? Mithrix. What's he been doing on the moon all this time? He's not been like twiddling his thumb. He's been doing stuff. He's made a new race of golems called the Chimera, the Lunar Chimera, and the Lunar Guardians, or whatever they're called. And essentially, he's basically just making them more stable, and it's improvements on the design, because that's all he can do up there. He's got a bunch of different stuff. You can see the pillars level is actually his like workshop and different things. And each of the areas is a different part of the 4 basic elements. You can see the soul, pillar of soul is up there, and it's with all the wispy grass and different things. Pretty cool, like, imaging and metaphor. The next thing is he starts sending pods to the surface and kind of corrupting the people of the planet. So, Providence, obviously, does not want Mithrix to have anything to do with the planet, because he knows Mithrix does not look favorably upon him. He looks actually rather, he really doesn't like him. So, Providence knows Mithrix is out for revenge, and so he's trying desperately to not let Mithrix get any like little toehold into it. But the scavengers are naturally curious and inquisitive, and they have a deep love of anything that they like claim as theirs, which is fuck. We're good. So, which is why they kind of collect items from the UAS safe travels, and which is why they actually pick up the lunar items. It's because they have they just want to, basically. I don't know, there's not really a great like epic explanation. It's just kind of they felt like it. Anyway, let me think where to go next with this. Oh, sick vase. Anyway, so Mithrix starts sending lunar pods and corrupting people, which leads to Mithrix sends that. Providence retaliates against him by basically just saying, hey, if you use those, I'm gonna kill you. And so anyone found using one of the lunar items or having any influence with the Beads of Fealty, which swears allegiance to Mithrix and says that you will be spared in the coming storm, essentially has their guts ripped out and they're killed. There's the obelisk in a moment fractured, which is essentially a moment fractured is basically just a place kind of outside time. It is literally a moment in time that has been fractured. If you go to the obelisk, it'll just kill you. But if you're clutching the beads of fealty, it'll take you further outside into like truly safe space. The only way to access it is with the beads of fealty, and so only Mithrix's supporters are able to access this place. Which is why you fight one of the scavengers there, because they're his only real servants. And what's interesting about all of this is that there's like this whole combat going on, and then we just kind of stumble in. It's presumed that Mithrix has something to do with it. He probably did something to get them there so that he could eventually escape. But in any case, he gets there. Or we get there, we kill Providence, and now Mithrix is kind of left sitting up there. And so he's waiting, and this is really when like kind of shit gets serious. And then the next ship, the UAS Contact Light or Safe Travels, I don't really remember. That's gonna kill me later. I'm so angry about that. I really want to remember that. That ship shows up, and that is like a full armored ship. The admiral or the captain comes out of retirement to direct it because it's such a big deal, and also because he thinks it's just a cool story. And basically, the commando is a different character. I don't remember his name. Acrid is the only character who's the same in both games. Everyone else is just different versions. For example, the commando is just another random soldier. He's just a soldier in both games. It's not like an individual guy that he's some hero 6 fronts or something. He's literally just random dude. And I'm losing it. Anyway, so the whole plot of this game is we're essentially running through the worlds, and we're finding out like kind of what Providence left behind. It's kind of like a Dark Souls game where you're exploring a ruined world. Shit's gotten bad, dude. It is not looking good for people down here. So we go through, and then that's why the final boss is just Mithrix. He's the other brother. He's presumably the one who brought you here. And he's literally just badass motherfucker. We gotta kill this guy. Is there anything I'm leaving out? We can just go into random lore tangents now. Purity is essentially just kind of like a crystallized moment where it's literally just the two brothers' childhood, which is kind of why it does the effect that it does, where it like strengthens your identity or whatever. So shorter skill cooldowns, but reduced luck is basically just your items being less effective is the way I interpret that. Most of the item lore is pretty straightforward. There's a few kinda cool ones, but nothing that's actually really that crazy. That's kind of just all surface level stuff, where you read it and you're just like, yeah, that is about the origin of the item. Time dilation is a thing. You learn some other random stuff. There's a few lore characters. The other main like kind of background lore that's happening is Artificer has a really big like thing of lore that's just kind of left open to interpretation. There's like a court basically on some random planet that thinks that heaven is also a planet, and so they go to every planet trying to find out which one's heaven. So that's why the Artificer's here. That's why they've got the super high-tech futuristic stuff, because theoretically this only takes place in like, I don't know, like 2100 or something. So it's really not that far into the future. It's sci-fi definitely, but in terms of actual placing, like 2014 is just a year. Like people talk about it. There was like an uprising in this universe that year. It's really not a crazy distant like year 20XX kind of thing. It's just kind of there. Yeah, but that's why the Artificer's here, and what's interesting is that she supposedly... actually, no, I don't remember. I don't think there's anything to do with that. Well, I'm gonna just start talking about Bioshock Infinite now, because this kind of Risk of Rain thing is, I think we did it. So the way that Bioshock Infinite is kind of like starting on the concept of quantum mechanics. So the idea is basically just many worlds interpretation, which is there exists a universe in which different things happen, but it's not infinite different things. So if I flipped a coin right now, there's probably a universe where it comes out heads and one where it comes out tails and different decisions and blah blah blah. But it's not the exact thing. There's going to be something called a constant. So a variable would be, oh, the coin flip changed. A constant would be, this always happens. So, for instance, there are some things that are just always going to happen in Bioshock Infinite. You get examples of a few of them, and the game tries to explain it to you. The thing at the fair where Booker chooses a coin side and says heads, and it's always heads. That whole bit is literally just an example of a constant. That's the point. It's a constant. And the whole bit, like, immediately... I don't remember when this happens. The Comstock thing, where he just kills Comstock as soon as he meets him, basically. That's also another example of this, where that always happens. I don't remember where that's said in the lore, but essentially it's just guaranteed. Fixed outcome, it is going to happen. And it's going to happen to you. Sorry, I just died like mid sentence. I'm losing it here. Anyway, so and then the main thing with Elizabeth is so that's quantum mechanics. So then there's a guy called Booker DeWitt, and this is kind of like the constant here. Is just his whole backstory. And the constant is he goes and he fights at Wounded Knee, which was an actual real life massacre. By the way, they didn't make any of that up. That should just happened. Where basically they just killed a bunch of fucking Indians. They weren't even really doing nothing. They just fucking killed a bunch of Indians. It was back in the 1800s in America, obviously. And so he does that, and then he's like, "Oh, I don't think I should have done that." And then he goes on and he joins the Pinkertons, which is a basically type of organization where corporate would hire them because, oh, our workers are unionizing. And so they'd go in and basically just beat them. Just beat them till they listen kind of thing. Where it's like, that's messed up. But like, yeah, you know? So, that's what Booker did for a living. And then he starts a detective agency, gets married, wife dies in childbirth, and that's where things start to go nuts. Now, here, after his wife... trying to think, actually. No. It's right after the Pinkertons, I believe, is when he changes his, there's the decision where he goes to a Riverside baptism thing, and basically this is like the biggest plot point in the entire game is he either chooses, yeah, I can repent, I can be forgiven, or he says no, I can't be forgiven. I've done too many horrible things. And this causes a split in the timeline. If he chooses repentance, he changes his name, becomes Zachary Hale Comstock, which causes a whole mess of stuff down the line. And he becomes Zachary Hale Comstock. If he doesn't, he stays Booker DeWitt, and he basically just keeps living his life. His core stays the same. Zachary Hale Comstock becomes a religious leader, starts like a religious movement, and then... I don't know how to exactly explain this. The Lutesses make one Lutess, Rosalind Lutess, I believe, makes a device capable of pausing a particle in time or in space. I don't know. It entangles a particle so that the city floats, which is how all of Columbia works. Is literally just there's a single particle in it that just keeps it up there, which I don't know, kind of based. However, it goes on to the next point, which is that's just not good for you. Quantum stuff turns you sterile, and so they're up in the sky. Oh wait, I skipped over a bit of lore. I'm so sorry. Uh, so first things first, the city is made and it goes on a flying tour, and then it's initially just part of the United States. And it just goes around to different places, and it's like basically a highly religious movement where it's literally just, yeah, dude, this is literally just Colombia. And then they secede from the United States because of, I think, the Emancipation Proclamation, and basically just like leave and fuck off for a while and just fly around different places. It's pretty ambiguous where it actually is overhead, where most of it's assumed it's just flying in random places. Uh, they go to China at one point, I believe, and fight in that war, or in some war in Asia. I don't remember. It's like a thing in one of the levels, so I don't particularly know that bit. But they do it, and so they just, kind of wander around aimlessly. And then here's the big twist. Being around a bunch of quantum entanglement particles and stuff, like Zachary Comstock has been, makes it sterile. So, not good. Meanwhile, one of the Lutesses has continued their research and the female Lutess, I don't remember her name. And she has like kind of done a gateway into another world where she meets her brother and basically just lies and says, "Oh, this is my twin. I've had a twin all along. Don't worry, guys." And everyone's kind of like, "Don't think so, but you are kind of smartest woman." So, no one's really gonna say nothing. But that's a very big plot point. So she gets her brother over, and then Zachary needs a kid. He's sterile, and so they literally just go to the brother's reality and just figure out, oh, Booker DeWitt, that'll work because, oh, he's literally the exact same person. He's just in a different time and space, so why not bring him over? What are we missing out on? And they do. They do exactly that. It's a blast, apparently. Everyone has fun. Except for the Booker DeWitt who they get the kid from. He agrees to just sell it. And there's like the very iconic phrase that's used a lot in the game, "Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt," which is referring to bring us your child and wipe away your gambling debts that you received while you were sad over your wife's death. And then it gets used again later. But that's kind of the main function of that. How do I describe this next bit? And then everything that they're doing doesn't really sit well with the Lutesses, and Booker just desperately wants his kid back, but since he's not Comstock, he doesn't know the Lutesses, there's no way for him to get his thing back, and also the Lutess from his reality is now in the other reality, so it's a whole mess for him. And so he goes into this depression. He's just running his detective agency, and he's pretty miserable the whole time. And then eventually the events of the game happen. Isn't this exciting? Where the Lutesses have their machine sabotaged. They basically get blown up across every timeline. And so now they're just kind of having a blast in all of the timelines and just doing things because it's fun. And one of the things they do is they're like, we're going to right this wrong, and we're going to go and help this Booker DeWitt get his daughter back. And so that's what they do. They talk to Elizabeth, or they don't talk to Elizabeth. They talk to, pull him into their reality. And the game starts off with that quote about how the mind of the subject just kind of tries to rationalize what's happening. That's referring to people getting pulled into a different reality, where essentially it fucks with their brain so bad, they basically just do whatever it takes to, like, not think they're in a different reality. Which is why Booker DeWitt presumably has mild amnesia about specific events. So he remembers lots of his past, but it's just kind of like, he doesn't really remember it. He just thinks he remembers it. He didn't actually go through it. And then he gets pulled over, and he basically is just told, go have an adventure. Pat on the cheek, slap on the ass, and he's out on his way. So he goes through a lot of stuff, but the main point is he finds Elizabeth, and they just kind of keep going on their adventure. And Elizabeth lost her pinky in the, like, portal across time. And that grants her the ability to fucking travel across time. So, very fun, right? Or not time, travel across quantum space. Anyway, my voice is kind of going away now. I'm just gonna, like, speed up the rest of this gameplay, probably, because, my voice. But if you want to know the full plot of the game, essentially, they try to escape the city. They basically almost do. And then they get into a minor spat about how Booker wants to sell Elizabeth, and Elizabeth wants to go to Paris. So, kind of two different things. And, Elizabeth takes a fucking wrench, like from the first game, and smacks him in the head, and so he, like, goes unconscious, and he has a concussion, most likely. So, now's the real question. I'm just going to mention this here. Is he the same Booker DeWitt pre- and post, head trauma? I don't know. Anyway, he does all that. Their ship gets hijacked by the Vox Populi, voice of the people. Get it? It's Roman. Or it's Latin. And essentially it's just black people for workers' rights. It's literally, that's all it is. It's literally just, we want workers' rights, and then, crap, I can't remember his name. Fink. Jeremiah Fink. Jewish name, by the way, which, wonder what the game's trying to say about that. Basically just goes, no you don't. And then they have a whole thing in Finkton, which, cool section of the game, but good lord, is it, like, intensely boring. I don't know, it's not, like, intensely boring, but it's definitely, like, plot-wise, it just is in a completely different direction. Because they're not really opposed to the religious values, except for the fact that they're so expressly racist. The political values of the time are literally, if you're black, you're subhuman filth. Which is literally, like, possibly racist, guys. I don't know if they know if that's bad yet. Anyway, so this is the part of the game where most people are kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't hold up. Because it just kind of changes narratives. Fuck. And so most people kind of get lost in the shuffle here. The important thing to note is essentially, there's nothing important to note. I don't know. They go through Finkton, and they have to change realities to get their airship back. Essentially, it's like the SparkNotes version of it. Truth is more interesting, but it's also a lot more boring, so not going to talk about it. Oh! Well, anyway, they get their airship back, and then they just kind of transfer a couple more realities, and then there's like a whole subplot where Booker gets time traveled into the future. And essentially, his whole role in the story from here on out is he delivers a message to Elizabeth, and then is like, you got this. You got this, champ. Good game, by the way. Love Bioshock Infinite.